What's good, guys? Fantasy Joe back here with my Week 8 running back rankings, half point PPR. As always, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and if you have any start-sit questions, leave them in the comment section down below. I'll respond as always. Let's hop into these rankings. Number one, the clear number one overall this season in fantasy football, Derrick Henry facing off against the Indianapolis Colts. He's absolutely dominated this year. So sure, I think he could have an off game coming, but I'm going to keep playing him every single week without change. Anyone can have a bad week, and his normal weeks are phenomenal. So, two, Dalvin Cook against Dallas. I think Cook just gets so much volume when he plays. Their offense really runs through him. Dallas is, better on defense this year, but I still think it's a solid matchup for him. Naji Harris against Cleveland. Going to get a ton of volume in the passing game, especially with Juju Smith-Schuster out for this season. I think that continues throughout the season. For Daryl Henderson Jr., I know he's coming off the bad game against Detroit, but I really think that had more to do with the revenge game narrative for Matthew Stafford. I think he's got a good chance of picking up a touchdown or two against Houston this week. 5, Alvin Kamara against Tampa Bay. We know how good Tampa Bay's run defense is, but we saw how effective Alvin Kamara is as a receiver year after year of his career, especially a prime example is Monday night, had 10 receptions, well over 100 yards and a touchdown. I think he could be used similarly this week. 6, Jonathan Taylor against Tennessee. Jonathan Taylor's been dominating recently. Tennessee's defense is pretty bad, so I'm firing him up. 7, Austin Eckler against New England. Eckler's just an all-around stud. I'm not scared that they're playing New England. Gets so much done in the passing game as well as the rushing game, and looks like the goal line back for a good offense. 8, Ezekiel Elliott facing off against Minnesota. Tough to not have him higher here, honestly. I'm really excited to fire up Zeke every single week. Nick Chubb against Pittsburgh. I know it's not a great matchup, but I think he's got a good chance to get some volume, and that Cleveland running game has always been pretty potent. So I have him inside my top 10 this week coming off of injury. 10, Deandre Swift against Philly. Swift gets so much done in the passing game, gets a good dose of work in the rushing game as well. He's an easy top 10 back, even against Philly. 11, James Robinson against Seattle. Been seeing him get a ton of volume recently. Seattle's defense is not a good one, especially with Geno Smith at QB. There's a good chance that this is a neutral game script, or much better than with Russ was playing. Joe Mixon facing off against the New York Jets. We saw what other running backs were able to get done last week. I think Samaje Perine, even in daily, is a solid play. We saw so many running backs when the Patriots score last week. Next 3 up, I've got Aaron Jones against Arizona on Thursday night. Aaron Jones, sure, he hasn't had any of those explosive games so far, but this could be one with Davonte Adams out, Allen Lazard out. Games in the past where we've seen Davonte Adams out, we've seen Aaron Jones more involved in the passing game. I think that could happen. I expect 20 touches for him in this game or close to. Hopefully he can find the end zone once. Cordell Patterson going against Carolina. He's getting a good amount of work in the rushing game, which really excites me to play him every single week as his floor gets higher. And, didn't do much in the rushing game, in the receiving game last week, but I think he will be featured in the receiving game just about every week. I think that's more of an outlier. So firing up Cordell Patterson, high-end RB2 this week. 15, Chubb Hubbard against Atlanta. I think he's just going to get a ton of volume. Atlanta's a good matchup, so I think he'll get it going. 16, I've got Leonard Fournette against New Orleans. New Orleans got a tough defense, but Leonard Fournette's getting a ton of volume. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a good offensive line, as well as a good offense in general. I think there'll be scoring opportunities for Fournette. I think there'll be work in the passing game. So really excited about Leonard Fournette. 17, Daryl Williams against the New York Giants. Terrible week for him last week against Tennessee in a good matchup. But as long as the Kansas City doesn't get blown out like they did last week against the Giants, I think he's got a really good chance of punching a touchdown in. 18, Chase Edmonds against Green Bay. I think he'll have a real good chance to get some work done Thursday night. High over under. There's a good chance he's on the field. Davonte Booker next up against Kansas City. I know he wasn't great last week, punching that touchdown that saved his week. He hasn't been efficient, but he has been getting a ton of work. Kansas City's a great matchup, so I'm firing him up as a top 20 play. 20, we got Zach Moss against Miami. Miami is a horrible run defense. Zach Moss is the lead back there in Buffalo for a great offense. Antonio Gibson, definitely they've been managing him with that stress fracture. If the game script's not good, he won't be out there. Denver's got a good chance of a good game script. I'd say it's probably a 50-50 game in my opinion. Maybe a slight edge to Denver. 22, Damian Harris against the Chargers. They have a run funnel, and I think the Patriots will lean into that. Try to slow the game down a little bit. So I think he could have another solid week this week. 23, I've got Kenneth Gainwell going against Detroit. Great matchup for him. I think he gets more work with Miles Sanders out, so I'd be firing him up. Javonte Williams at 24 against Washington. Not a great defense, and I think Javonte could get something done this week. If you guys have made it to this point, please hit that like button. If you have any start sits, let me know. Until next time, this is Fantasy Joe.